Hola. In this video, I'm going to go over the conjugation of some important verbs in Spanish that are irregular. So before we've taken a look at regular conjugation, where they follow the nice, neat rules of o, asa, amos, an, o, ese, hemos, en. But the verbs we're going to see in this video are irregular, meaning that they do not follow that nice, neat pattern. And just as a quick review, remember that in Spanish, as long as a lot of other languages, you need to take a verb and change it into some other form than what it starts as. So if you want to talk about eating, to say something like I eat is a little bit different from you eat or he eats. Right? You have to change the verb of to eat, which in this case is comer, into some different forms to talk about I or you or we or they. It changes a little bit. So let's start off with the verb ser, which is a very important word. And it's a very basic verb. Ser means to be, talking about describing yourself or describing other people. For the yo form, it's soy, yo soy. Tú eres. Él es. Ella es. Usted es. Nosotros somos. Nosotras somos. Vosotros sois. Vosotras sois. Ellos son. Ellas son. Ustedes son. And you can kind of pull together a few patterns as far as how the verb works, but for the most part it's quite irregular and they're forms that you simply have to memorize. Right, but this is the verb ser, to be, talking about descriptions. The next important verb is ir, which means to go. And this one does follow a little bit more of a pattern than ser, but it is irregular. It doesn't follow the nice, neat rules that we had for the regular verbs. For the yo form, it's yo voy. Tú vas. Él va. Ella va. Usted va. Nosotros vamos. Nosotras vamos. Vosotros vais. Vosotras vais. Ellos van. Ellas van. Ustedes van. Now in this case, you could almost pretend that it is an AR verb of var, and then you could receive tú vas, él va, ella va, nosotros vamos, vosotros vais, ellos van. You can almost think of it as a pattern like that. The only difference being the yo form is voy. The next verb is querer, which means to want. Querer, meaning to want, is actually what we call a stem-changing verb. And we have in the parentheses here that the type of stem-changing verb is that the E goes to an IE. But what that means is, if you look in the word and you always go to the second to last vowel, whatever it is that we're talking about in the stem-changing, in this case you have 1, 2. So this second to last E right here, that E changes to an IE. This is what we call a stem-changing verb because the stem changes. It's different. Because remember from regular conjugation that you count 1, 2 letters from the back, you drop those off, and you're left with this stem. But in most of the conjugations, this is not what we use. We use a changed stem, a different stem. And in this case, it becomes quere. And then the endings follow similar to the way they do with regular verbs. So it's yo quiero. Tú quieres. Él quiere. Ella quiere. Usted quiere. And I'm going to skip over to ellas, ellos, ellas, ustedes. Ellos quieren. Ellas quieren, ustedes quieren. And then we go to the nosotros form, which follows with the regular stem. So, nosotros queremos. Vosotros queréis. And then by the pattern that you see here, you can tell why we also call these verbs shoe verbs, or sometimes boot verbs, because if you draw a line around the conjugations that do the stem change, it kind of looks like a shoe or a boot. So the ones that fall inside of this boot shape do the stem changing of E to IE. Instead of it being Q-U-E-R, we have Q-U-I-E-R, like the change tells us. But if it's outside of the boot, it follows with the regular stem of just dropping the last two letters of the infinitive and moving that down. Queremos, queréis. The final verb is tener. Tener meaning to have possession of something. And tener is what I like to think of as a stem changing verb. Technically it's not, but it does follow through with a similar pattern of what querer as well as jugar, another stem changing verb, do. It's a similar conjugation, but it's a little bit different, and the reason that it's different is because of its yo form. To say something like I have, it's yo tengo. And I just have this mark here just to show you that the yo form is different from the rest of the conjugation. Tú tienes, this is where it starts to act like a stem changing verb. Él tiene, ella tiene, usted tiene. Nosotros tenemos, nosotras tenemos, vosotros tenéis, vosotras tenéis, ellos tienen. Ellas tienen, ustedes tienen. So you can almost visualize that same boot shape from the verb querer, with tienes, tiene, tienen, having that somewhat of a stem changing conjugation. And then we have in the nosotros and the vosotros form, following with the regular stem from the verb, crossing off the last two, left with ten, you have ten, ten. The only difference with this one is that in the yo form it's yo tengo,